Hello guys, welcome back to Datacraftinglab. Trust I able to learn one or two things in my previous lesson. I really appreciate you all. In this video, we'll dive into one of the most essential topic in SQL, that's CRUD operation in MySQL. We will not only define each operation, but also apply them to real-world business questions using the circular and word databases from beginner to advanced level. Now, let's get started. Firstly, what does this CRUD stand for? These are the four basic operations that form the foundation of working with databases. Now, the C, that's which is the create, that means adding a new data to a table. The R, that is the read, retrieve data, that means we should select. The U, update, modify existing records. And the D, delete, that means we should remove unwanted records. Now, let's see some of the examples under the word, the create now, before we move to the next one. Now, if you look at the question I have on the screen now, these are questions under the create now. The question says, as a new business unit, create a table to track customer feedback for quality assurance. Now, first, let's create a table. Now, in respect to this what? Customer feedbacks, and we will now insert some values into it now. Now, let's start. Now, let's say create table customer underscore feedback, open parenthesis. Now, what do we actually, we'll be using the circular database because it has a table that's related to what? Customer. Now, feedback, what do we actually, the columns you actually want there. Now, feedback underscore ID. Now, I'll leave this as integer. Now, I'll say unsigned. I'll leave it auto increment. Auto underscore increment. Now, primary key. Comma. Now, the next one I want is customer ID. Customer underscore ID. Now, small int, unsigned, comma. The next one, feedback underscore text. Now, for that, I want it as text, comma. Now, the next one, rating. Now, let's say tiny int text, open parenthesis, rating between 1, let me leave it 1 and 5, close parenthesis, comma. Now, the next one, I want feedback. Let's say feedback underscore date. The date of the feedback, I'll leave that as date format, comma. Now, foreign key, customer underscore ID, close parenthesis, references, customer, open bracket, that means the customer ID from the original table, that's the customer underscore ID, from the real customers table, close parenthesis. Now, we'll now close this first bracket that we've actually opened before, close parenthesis, and put a semicolon. Now, let's run this now, Control Enter. You can see now, no error. Now, this int now, that's the integer unsigned auto increment primary key now. This means what? Column will store positive whole numbers only, automatically increase for every new record, and what? Uniquely identify each row. What I'm trying to say here is this integer now, this int now is integer. Now, it stores only whole numbers, such as, let's say, like 1, 2, and so on and so forth. Now, and it is used for what? For IDs, for count, for scores and flags and all that. Now, for this unsigned now, this unsigned, that means I want this integer, it must not be what? Negative. Numbers cannot be what? Negative. That's the meaning of this unsigned now. Now, when we have this integer, let's say like 1, 2, 3, 4,000, 5,000, all this, it must not be what? Negative. That's why I use this unsigned now. This auto increment now, for instance, now if I do a feedback now, if I enter a feedback 1, now the next ID now, it will automatically increase it to 2, 3, 4, and so on. That's the essence of this what? Auto increment. And for the primary key now, this uniquely identify each row. It cannot be null, that means it cannot be empty. It must be unique. Now, this tiny int now, this tiny int is a smaller integer data type. This is a smaller integer data type, and this foreign key now, this stores only what? A very smaller number. Now, it can store large volumes of numbers. That's for in the essence of the what? Of the tiny integer. And for the foreign key is a column now that links to the what? To the primary key of another table. You can see now, we'll make references to what? To customers table here. That's why we make use of this foreign key. Now, let's insert some values in this table now. Now, if I click here now, these are our customers feedbacks. You can see now, the table is actually empty. Now, let's fill in this table now. Now, insert into. Now, what's the name of the table? The name of the table is customers feedback. Don't forget, this is it. Now, what do you want to insert there? Open parentheses. Now, those columns you actually have, that's the customer ID, customer underscore ID, comma. Now, the feedback underscore text, underscore text, comma. Now, rating, comma. Now, feedback underscore date. Now, that will be all. Close parentheses. Now, hit on enter. Values now that we actually want to bring there. Values. Open parentheses for the values. Now, for the customer ID, I'll be using 1. Now, for the feedback now, let's say text screen in great service, comma, I enjoyed the rental experience. You can just put anything. This is just the rental experience. Close it, string, comma. Now, the next one, let's say rating, I'll give it 5. The date, 2025. That's, let's say, 06 O3, this, close parenthesis, comma. Now, for the second one, now I still want more. That's 2, comma. Now, the text, I'll put it in string, I'll put in quotes. Things, I'll say things were okay, but the return process was slow. So this, close the text string, comma. The rating, give it 3. Let's use the same date, 2025/06. This is the date I'm actually making the video. Now, close parenthesis, comma. Now, sorry, I made a mistake here. Okay. Open parenthesis for the third one, 3, comma. Now, text string. I add issues. Let's say I had issues with the payment, not so much. That's the feedback for this, not so much, in quotes. Sorry, stop, in quotes, comma. Now, rating, let's say 2, comma, in quotes, 2025/06/03. Now, close parenthesis, comma. Now, the next one, open parenthesis, let's say 4. Just want to insert 4 or 5. Let's say 5. Excellent. Let's say excellent. Selection. Excellent selection of classic movies. Let me give exclamation mark here. Classic movie, in quotes, comma. Now, rating, let me give it 5, comma, 2025/06/03. Now, close this, comma. Now, the last parenthesis I'll be open, that's 5, comma. Let's say text. The app crashed. Twice while borrowing. While browsing. Let me say while browsing. Stop, close text string, comma. Now, 2, I'm giving, that's for the rate, 2, and the date, that's 2025/06/03. Now, close parenthesis. Now, that will be all. Put a semicolon. Now, let's run this now. Control Enter. Delimiter in position 5 in date value O. Let's quickly check that. Now, if you come across this kind of error, how you can rectify your error in SQL? Now, you go through it, insert into customer_feedback, customer_ID. Now, you can see it now. This is indicating here that there is error here. I make use of 2 somewhere there. Now, let's see it now instead of 1. You can see it now here. Delete. Now, let's run this now. Control Enter. So no error. Now, definitely our table is actually back now. Let's open this table and let's see. You can see it now. What we actually inserted there has actually reflected in the table. You can see this is customer underscore, sorry, this is feedback underscore ID. That's the first one. Customer underscore ID, that's the customer ID. The feedback underscore text, these are the rating now, and the what feedback in reference to the what customers table. Now let's quickly solve this question too. This question also says create a table to monitor internet penetration growth in each country yearly. Now in this case, I'll be using the word database. Now let me collab this. Let me just collab this. Now collab this now. We'll be using this word database. Now let's create this table first. Let's say create table, create table. Now let's name this table, let's say internet underscore growth. Internet underscore growth. Now open parentheses. Now let's say I'm using the country underscore code. Now I'll say char. Open parentheses 3, close parentheses. Now comma year. Sorry, year. Okay, let me leave it in a small letter year. Now I want this as the year, normal year in capital letter, comma. Now the next one I want is internet users, internet underscore users, let's say underscore millions, underscore million. I want to leave that in decimal. Now 10, comma 2, close parentheses, comma. Okay, there's a mistake here. Now okay, we are fine. Now primary key, open parentheses, country underscore code, comma year, close parentheses, comma. Now foreign key, open parentheses, country underscore code, close parentheses. Now where do I want to reference it? References to country table in respect to code, close parentheses. Now close the bracket, semicolon. Now growth, let's say growth. Now this char I use here now, the difference between char and varchar. Now the difference between char and varchar is, in this case now, I only created what 3 characters. Now this char now, if I use more than what, it will, sorry, as I created 3 characters now, it will only what provide for a length of character of 3, variables of 3. Now in the case of the and if I now make use of 2 now, it will leave the remaining one as space. In the case of varchar now, if I create a character space of, let's say, the length of 50 for 50 characters now, and I now make use of 3 or 5, now it will not leave space as for the rest of the characters I didn't make use of there, because I actually created 50. It will ignore them. But in the case of the char, if I created 3 now, if I now make use of 2, it will leave the remaining one as what? As space. That's the difference between char and varchar. Now in the case of this char now, we normally use this when we want to use a what? A very short character. Now that's where between char and varchar. Now let's run this table now. Control enter. You can see now no error. Let's just insert a small value inside. insert into, now insert into, what's the name of the table? Insert into internet underscore growth. Now open parentheses. Now don't forget the first one is now country underscore code, country underscore code, country underscore code, comma. Now internet underscore user, sorry, year, there we have the year there, year, comma. Now internet underscore user underscore million, that's for the population. Now let's insert the values. Now we want those penetration growth in millions. So let's say USA in respect of the country, sorry, in respect to the countries table, USA, now in quotes, comma. Now let's say 2025, comma, let's say 312.32, close parenthesis, comma. Now open parenthesis, text USA, comma, 2020, let's leave this, let's say 2022. Let me just leave this 2023, comma. Now for this, now let's just give a figure, let's say 317.32. That's why I use a decimal here, 0.32, close parenthesis, comma. Now those countries must actually align with the countries you have in your country table, countries table. USA, now the catalog is on, sorry. Now let's say 2020, 2022, comma. Now let me just use 687.50, close parenthesis, comma. Now USA, now India, close this, comma. Now Indian, that's 2021, or okay, 2020, let's say 2022, or now let me make this US 2 instead of 3. Now I'll just change this to, let's say 2023. I'll still use the same, let's say 700.25, close parenthesis, comma. Now open parenthesis, let's say Brazil, because I actually want to use those countries in that table precisely. 2022, comma, let's just say 150.65, close parenthesis, comma, open parenthesis, Indian in quotes, comma, 2023. Okay, there's no a comma here. There should be a comma there. Okay, comma. Now that's why it's bringing that rest sign, 158.90, 90 close parentheses. Now put a semicolon here. Now Brazil, and let's leave it this way. Now let's run it now. Now no error. Now if you want to bring out your table now, you just select. Now you can just select everything. Select everything from where? From this table, internet underscore growth semicolon. Run this now. Now this is our table. You can see now it's working. It has actually bring out everything under the table and the values we actually inserted in the table. Now this is the original table, the permanent table we actually make reference to use to create the internet underscore growth. Now let's solve this question before we round up this lesson. This question says insert high spending customer into a new VIP underscore customers table with a full details. Now the first thing we'll be doing is we'll create a table in respect to this. Now and also we'll now insert values in it now. Now let's actually create this table. Now create, don't forget, create, that will be first thing, table. Create table. Now what's the name of the table you actually want to create? Let's say VIP underscore customer, open parentheses. Now hit on enter. What do you want to use here? I want to make use of customer ID. Now I will leave it as int primary key. Now enter. I want the full name of the customer, full underscore name. Now I'll leave that as a voucher, open parentheses, let's say 50, or let me leave it as 100, close parentheses, comma. Now the next one, let me say email of the customer. Now I would still leave that as a voucher, open parentheses, close this. Now total spent, underscore spent. Now decimal, let me leave that in a decimal, open parentheses, let's say 10 or 2, comma. Now I want the city. I'll leave that as a voucher, open parentheses, let's say 50 characters. Now I want the country, voucher. Now that's 50, open close parentheses, last underscore. I want last underscore, let's say last underscore renter underscore date. Last underscore renter underscore date. Format for that. Now that's all I want. Okay, let me leave this as capital. Now close parentheses, semicolon. Now let's run this. Control enter, no error. Now let's see the table we actually created. You can see it now. Customer underscore ID, full name, email, total underscore spent, city, country, and last underscore rent underscore date. Now let's come back here. Let's actually insert values in that table. Now insert into which table? VIP underscore custom underscore customer. Now, what do I want to bring out there? Customer underscore ID, comma, full underscore name. These are the column I actually want to fill. Email, comma, total underscore spent comma. Now country, comma, last underscore rent underscore renter underscore date. Now close parenthesis. Now select what do I want to select? The customer ID. This kind of different from the way we are doing it before. Now I'll be bringing out the customer ID from the customers table. Take note of that, comma. Now I want to concat. I want to join. That's the essence of the concat. Now I want the first name and the last name. From where? From the customers table. First underscore name, comma. Now the sign concat, this is it, comma. Now customer underscore last name. I want it to actually join them together. Close parenthesis. As what? As the full name. I want it to give it us as what? As the full name, full underscore name, comma. Now, what else am I picking from the customers table? I want the email, comma. Now, I want to use the window function sum, open parenthesis. Now, I'll make use of the payments table. Sorry, that's the amount. I'm picking an amount from the payments table, close parenthesis, comma. Now, from the countries table, that's country. What am I picking from the countries table? I'm picking the country, comma. Now date. We have the column for renter underscore date underscore rent, last underscore rent underscore date. I want to make use of date here now. I'm using the max function date. Now from where? Renters table. I will now join all these tables. I'm actually picking from different ones. Close parenthesis. Now this is one bracket and this is one parenthesis and this is another one. So I'll close two parentheses now. As, don't forget, give it an alias as last underscore renter. That's the last one underscore date. From which table? We see this as from customers table. That's where we actually pick from. So we actually make use of the other tables. We will now actually join them together. We denote it as C. Give it an alias of C. Now let's join them. Now join the payments table now as P. On what are we joining it on? We bring out the payment first. So in that case, what we are joining it on is what? The customer table. So what do they have in common? Customer underscore ID. So this is what they have in common. Equals, since this one comes first, the customer ID from the customer's table will follow, and what we are joining, what we are bringing out from this table now comes last. That's P. Don't forget. Dot customer underscore ID. That's what's actually common. Now the other tables that we've actually used, join. Now what are this table is this renter, that's R. We give it an alias of R. On what? Payment dot renter underscore ID. Renter underscore ID equals, now renter underscore ID along with the what? Renters table underscore ID. This is the column we're actually using. Now I'll join again. Now I'll join the city. I'll join the city along with this address table. I'll join the city along with the address table. Now I'll open all those tables. We'll see everything that is actually common there. Now the city, that will be the CI. On what are we joining it? Sorry. On now address dot city underscore ID. The reason why I'm using this address is because address is one that has something common to the word cities table. That's why I'm using the word address table to join it along with the cities table. Equals city dot city underscore ID. Now I want to join again. I want to join the country. Now that will be the CO. On what? On CO, that's CI, that's the city. I've actually joined the city along with so I'll now join the city along with the country table now. City, that's the country underscore ID. Click on this, equals, now country, that's what we'll bring out first here. We'll bring out the country here first. So now we'll be joining it here last. Now, what's common? Country. Let's bring it out. This is the column. Now, where customer underscore, that means from customers table underscore ID, not, don't forget, take note, not in, because not in, open parentheses, select, this is why I'm doing this is customer, so that it will not give us an error. Customer underscore ID from the customer VIP underscore customer, close parentheses. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is that so that this customer, the permanent table has the customer underscore ID. And when we are running it now, when we insert the value, so that it won't be giving us error. That means you should pick this customer, you say not in, that means customer underscore ID from the original table, that's the permanent table, which is the customer's table, and not in the what? Customer underscore ID in the what? VIP underscore customer. That's the meaning of the statement, so that there won't be error. That means you should not pick from here, you should pick the customer underscore ID from this table. Now, let's group it by now customer underscore ID, group by customer underscore ID, comma, now full name, comma, now customer email from customers table, now country from what? Countries table. So let's bring it out. I think that's all. I'll be using my having clause now. Having open parentheses, having sum, open parentheses. What do I want to sum there? The payment dot amount, close parentheses, let's say greater than greater than 100. Now let's run this now. Control enter. Error. Unknown column city underscore id on the clause. Address city underscore id. Now the error is from this address here now. This error is saying that what? This address table is not defined. That means we didn't include the address table in our query. Now to include that address table in our query, let me join. As we join others now, join address A. Let's give it an alias of A on, let's say, city, customer. This is the customer's table. This is the customer's table. It has address underscore ID. Let's join it along with the address table too. This is address underscore ID now. So let's actually join the two together. Let's come back here. Customer, that's address underscore ID equals, that's address underscore ID. Now it has been included. Let's run this now. Giving us error, function circular sum does not exist. Okay, there's a space here. Let me delete this space so that it won't give us error. Let's run this now. Control Enter. You can see now no error, and that means our table is actually okay. Now let's select let me just use the capital letter. Let's select everything from this table. Now what's the name of the table? That's VIP underscore customer. Now semicolon, hit on enter. You can see now. You can see this is the customer ID, the full name, the email, the total spend, the city. If there is city now, it won't give it as null. The country, the last underscore rank. That means the date of those activities, those transactions or activities that actually occurred. You can see it now. So it's perfectly working well. Now that's how to what? To make use of the create. In the previous lesson, we discussed the create, one of the CRUD operation in MySQL. In this lesson, we'll be discussing the read. Firstly, we said read refers to retrieving data from a database using the select clause. Now, the select command fetches specific columns and rows from one or more tables, often filtered by where, sorted by order by, and grouped using group by. Now, these are databases now. We have then the circular database, the SYS database, and Word database. These are different databases that actually came with the MySQL. Now, we have several tables under the databases. Now, we'll be using the select statement to retrieve data from either of all these tables now, along with the databases. Now, let's see some examples we have now. This question says, list the full name and email of customers living in Nigeria. Now, in this case now, I'll be using the circular database because it has a customers table that's related to this question now. Now, I'll just highlight this database. Now, I'll collapse it. Now I'll bring out my select statement now. Select. Now, full names. Now, so I'll be bringing out the customer's name, first name and last name. So I will now concat them together because the question says list the full names. Now I'll use my concat, open parentheses, from where customers table. Now first underscore name, comma. Now the concat sign, comma. Now customers table, last underscore name, close parentheses, as what? I'll give it an alias as what? Full underscore name, comma. Now, the next one, from where? From customer table. I'll give it an alias of C. From customers table. Now, I will now join. I want to join address. Now, I'll give it an alias of A on customer. I want to join the address table. I'll be using the address table along with the customer table. Address underscore ID. That is what is actually common to the two tables, equals address underscore ID. Now, the next one is I will join again. Then I want to bring out the city. That's I'll use CI as an alias for it. On, I'll bring out the address. That's city underscore ID equals city underscore ID. Now, I want to make the question says full name and what? I'll be using the country. Also, I'll bring out my country, sorry, country, that will be CO on CI dot country underscore ID equals country dot country underscore ID. Now, where I want to use my where clause, country dot country where country CO equals, that means I'm picking country from the what? Picking country from the country table, equals to Nigeria, semicolon. This is already giving us a red sign. So before I run it, let me check where the error is. Now, this is indicating an error here now. Okay, let's see. I don't want to run this so that it won't give us an error. Wait. Okay. Probably I didn't bring out something. Let's email. Let's bring out the email. Okay. The email is actually the issue. I run it like that, it will actually give us error. Control enter now. You can see now, this is the full name and the email address of all the customers. It has actually, the concat has actually merged the first name and the last name together and bring out all their e-names, along with the various tables we actually joined together. Now let's solve this second question. This second question says show the top 5 most populated cities in Africa. Now, we'll be using the word database this time around. We'll be using the word database. Now, let's select. Now, city. I want to use, let me just collapse this. Now, okay. I want to use the cities table. This is the cities table now. You can see we have the ID, name, country code, discrete, population. Now I want to bring out this city. What do I want to bring on the cities table? That's the name. As what? As city. That's what I want to actually do as city. Okay, let me leave it that way. Comma. Now I want to bring out the country table. What do I want to bring from it? Country name as what? As country. I want to bring out the country name as country. Now the cities table again. City, what I want to bring out? Population. The question talks about population. Population. Now from city table, let's see this city. Does it has population? And this is the country table. Now it has name, so it has population. So let's continue. Now from city table, now let's join these two tables together. Join country on that city. What they have in common? This city has country code, equals country dot code, where country dot continent equals Africa. Now let's order it by, that means we sort by order. I made a mistake here. Order by city dot population. Let's leave it descending. Let me leave it descending. Now limit it. I want to use the limit it to 5. I just want 5. Now I see bringing an error sign here. Let me check. Oh, I didn't put a comma here. Okay. Now let's run this now. Control enter. You can see now everything works perfectly. Now based on the query we actually have here, we were able to use the city along with the what? With the countries table to join them together to access the city and the what? Continent information. Now the filter now, that which is the order by now, we sort it by Africa, and by we filtering by what? Africa, and sort it by population in descending order. That means from the highest to the lowest, and we limit it to 5. If I can try to limit it to, let's say, 10 now. Let's run this. You can see it now. Everything works perfectly. Now, as an analyst now, if you have to make a business decision based on this query we actually run now, with this population now, you can actually identify where to invest new infrastructure or business outlet. Business outlet based on what? Urban population in these countries we actually bring out. Now let's solve the last question now. Now let's solve this class question. This class question says which customers have rented more than 20 films and how much have they spent in total? Now in this case, we'll be using the circular database. Now let me just collapse this. Sorry, excuse me. Now let's solve this now. Let's select, let's bring out the customers table. Now what do I want to bring from there? Customer underscore ID underscore ID, comma. Now I want to concat open parenthesis. What do I want to actually concat? I want the full name, first underscore name, comma. Now comma, last underscore name, close parenthesis, as full underscore name, comma. Now I want to count open parenthesis the renters table. What am I bringing from the rent underscore ID? Rent underscore ID, close parenthesis, as I'm giving it an alias of what? Total underscore renters, comma. Now I want to use the window function of sum, open parenthesis. Now what am I summing now? The payments table. I'm bringing out the amount, close parenthesis, as I'm giving an alias of what? Total spent. So I'll use the amount to determine the what? Total spent. From where do I actually want to bring it from? Customers table. I'm bringing it up from customers table, but we've used several tables. We will now join them together. Sorry, from customers table. Now all those other tables, the payment, the renter, and all, we will now join them together based on what they have in common. Renter, that's on, that's customer underscore ID, equals, that's what they have in common, customer underscore ID. Now the next one, I'll join the payment, give it an alias of P on what? On renter underscore ID equals renter underscore ID. Now the next one, group by customer underscore ID, and their full name, full underscore name. That's what I want to group it by. Having, I'll be using my having count. There's a video I talk about group by having clause, so you can watch it and get more explanation on the word having clause and the group by clause. That's dot renter underscore id, close parenthesis, greater than 20. I said if the count is greater than 20. Now I'll order it by total underscore spent. I want to filter it by total underscore spent. I'll leave it descending order. So let me see it in descending order. Now let's go through our query now. I think there is no any error. Now let's run this now. Control enter. Now it's working well, perfectly well. Now what we actually did here now, we aggregate the total rentals and payment per customers. The total rental and payment per each customers, and filters only those with more than 20 rents. 20 renters. Because based on the question says which customers have rented more than 20 films and how much have they spent in total. So that's why we come across this. You can see it na customer ID with full name and total underscore rental. Everything we have here is actually more than 20 and total spent. If I bring my cursor down now, you can see it now. You can see it now. So everything is actually more than 20. That will be all for this lesson. Now, in the subsequent lesson, we'll be talking about the updates and delete. That will be all for this lesson. See you in the next lesson. Bye for now. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, click on the notification bell. When I drop a new video, you get notified. If you find this video very helping, give us a thumb up and also drop your comment in the comment section. Bye for now. Now let's continue. The next one we'll be discussing is the update. Now this update is used to modify existing records in a table. It allows you to change data based on a specific condition. Now for the update now, for the general syntax of it, you update the table you actually want to work on. You set your columns. That means columns equals to specific values. As much as the column is, let's say column 1 equals to value 1, column 2 equals to value 2, column 3 and all that. And you make use of your where condition. Now let's see some business questions under it now, using the circular and the word database. Now we'll be using the circular database to solve this question now. Let me first highlight it. Okay. Now let's see our customers table. This is our customers table. You can see this is the customer ID, store ID, first name, last name, email, and all that. Now, let's come back to where we want to actually write our query. This question says update the email of the customer ID 5. This is the customer ID that we actually want to update now. It has email.brown@circular customer.org. Now let's solve this question now. Now, like I said earlier, the first thing you will do is update. What do you want to update? The customers table. Don't forget customers table. This is it here. Now, set. You want to set the column and the values. Set. This question says email, so that's the column we are setting. Set email equals now in quotes because it's text string. New dot email at example.com in quotes. Now where customer underscore ID equals to 5. Now we've set our where condition. Let's run this. Let's see what we actually have. Now let's come back to our customers table now. Now let's refresh. Let's open it again. Let's see what we have. You can see now. What we actually have here was Elizabeth's before for the email. Now, if you look at the email we have there now, new.email@example.com. So that's how to update a table. Now, let's solve the second question. Now, in this kind of case now, this keeps the customer's contact details accurate, and it is useful in a, let's say, in a customer service setting now, or profile update 16. Now let's solve this second question. This second question says increase the population of all cities in Nigeria by 5%. Now let's solve this question. We'll be using the word database now this time around, not the circular again. Let me just collapse this. Now, because it actually has population in either in this table or this table. Now, let's see this city now. You can see it also has population. Let's see the country. Let's use the city. Let's use this city. Let's say update. Now, increase the population of all cities in Nigeria by 5%. Now, let's solve this question. First thing, before we solve this question, we'll be using our word database. Now, let's select name, comma, let's see population. Now, from where? Let's use the countries table. Now, this is it. Now, where name equals string Nigeria. Close this string. Now let's run this now. You can see now we have Nigeria. This is the population. Now let's update it now. So that's why I bring it out first. Let's update this. Update. Where do we want to update? The countries table. Now set. Now let's set population equals, now the population, we want to increase it by 5%. That will be multiplied by, normally on 100, that's 100 is 100%, that's the highest percent. Now we want to increase it by 5%. That will be, I'll add 5% to it, that's 105. So that will now be 1.05. Assuming I want to reduce it by what? 5%, that will be 0.95. Take note of that. Now, where name equals Nigeria. Now let's run this now. Update, set population error. You are save update mode. You are using a save update mode and you are trying to update it. Save update mode and trying to update it. Now what this error means is that you can see we have error 1175 in MySQL. It means that save update mode is protecting your data. Now this error we actually have now, it means that it's protecting this save update mode now, it's protecting our data, and it always include a what? It always include a specific condition like a primary key in your what? In your where clause, or you can temporarily disable the update what? Save update mode for what? Trusted query. Now there are two ways. Let's actually correct it now. To actually correct it, you can either do it this way. Let's say where name, we will not use where name now, we'll just say where code. Let's say where code instead of the name. Where code equals, we'll use the code instead of the name, the text. So nga. Now this, even if it is on a safe mode now, it will still work. You can see it now. Update query set row match change 1 in 0. Now that means, or you can also do it this way. You actually, there are two ways you can actually do it. You can set underscore save underscore update underscore update equals 0. Now put a semicolon, control enter. You can see now it actually work, and then you now run it back again like this. Let me just copy this. Control C. Now bring it here. Control V. Now if you now bring this back now as name, let's say name, and you now bring it back here as what? Let's say Nigeria. You can see this now. Control enter. You can see now it actually work. Either of the two ways actually work. And if you want to return your what? If you want to return it to a safe mode back again, you just change this to what? To 1 instead of what? Instead of 0. Now let's come here. Let's refresh all. Now let's open this countries table now, because that table will actually update. Now let's just bring out, let's say Nigeria now. You can see now, because previous ones was 115 something, you can see now we are now having 112.935.365. So our query is actually correct and is actually working. Now let's solve this last question under this update. Now this question says flag all customers who have spent more than $200 as VIPs in a separate column. Now the first thing we'll first of all do is, we'll add a column if it doesn't exist. Now let's see. Now we'll be using our circular database in this. Now let's say author table customer, the customers table author. Now add column is underscore VIP. Now tiny integer. I made use of this tiny integer and I explain it in probably when we are talking about our create default, where I said there are also integers, but if we don't want to use a very much or large values of numbers, it's very small range. Now let's run this now. Control enter. Okay, you have an error in SQL. Check. Okay. Now let's solve this error. Now let's correct this error. Now it seems this is where this error is from. Now let me say Hot add table customer enter. Now add column. Oh, add column. Oh, I made a mistake here. Control enter. Let's run it. No error. Okay. I was one that actually made a mistake. Now, let's now solve this now. Let's say update. Let's update the table. Update customer. Now let's give it an alias of C. I will join open parenthesis, select customer underscore. Write down this actually select customer underscore ID from payment table group by customer underscore ID. Now having some open parenthesis close parenthesis greater than, don't forget the $200. Now let's close the parenthesis here now. That's okay. I'll now say VIP on customer dot, what am I bringing out? Customer underscore ID equals VIP dot customer underscore ID. Now set customer dot is underscore VIP equals to 1 semicolon. Now let's run this now. Control enter. Error. You are using a safe mode and you try to update a table. Now let's remove it from safe mode. Let's just run this back again. Control enter. Now let's run this now. Control enter. No error. Now let's actually refresh this now. Let's come to our customers table. Let's see what we've actually done. Now you can see our customers table now. This is underscore, this is the column we actually add, is underscore VIP now. Now we don't actually have any transaction greater than what, $200. So that's why we are having 00000 here now. Now I can come back here. Let's limit it to, let's say, limit to 10. Now let's run this. Error, incorrect usage of an update and limit. Okay. Now let me reduce this to, let's say, like $50. Let's see whether we have values for it. Let's refresh all now. Where is the customers table? You can see now. You can see this is indicating that what? So where you see 000, we don't actually have what? Customers. Now where it was indicating 0 before, we don't actually have customers that are what? That they are spending, sorry, that they've spent over what, $50. But in the case of, that's why if it has custom, sorry, what this is actually saying now, that the customer that actually spend over $50, it will indicate it as what? As one under this what? Of under the column of is underscore VIP. It will just give them one. But if we don't have, it will indicate it as what? As 0. That's what we actually have here now. Now let's return it to, let's say, like 100. Let's see. Control enter. It's still giving us. Now let's see 200. 200 is giving us error. It's giving us 0, sorry. Refresh. You can see we don't have anything there. Oh, now 200. You can see now. So it's still indicating 1. That means these are customers that they are on what? On VIP. Now that will be all for this updates. In this lesson, we'll be diving into delete operation, the final part of the CRUD tutorial series for MySQL. Now, the objective of this lesson is to teach viewers how to use the delete statement to remove safely and intentionally with real-world business examples using the circular and word databases. Now, before we proceed, what is delete? The delete statement in SQL is used to permanently remove one or more rows from a table. It is irreversible, so caution is required. Always use it with a proper where clause, unless you are deleting all rows intentionally. Now, the syntax of it is delete from table underscore name and along with what? Where condition. Now, if you look at the questions we have on my screen now, the question says our marketing policy requires deleting customer records that have not rented any movie in the last 2 years. The second question says clean up the databases by deleting all cities in Nigeria with a population under 10,000. The third one says purge old payment records in brackets other than 5 years with amount less than $1 to free up space. The last question says delete all rental and payment records for customers who have not been active for more than 3 years. Now let's take these business questions one after the other and let's solve it. Now let's get started. Now this question says our marketing policy requires deleting customers record that have not rented any movie in the last 2 years. Now we'll be using the customers table and also the what? The rental movie and the rental table. Now this question says our marketing policy requires deleting customers record that have not rented any movie in the last 2 years. We'll be using the customers table along with the what? Rentals table and also payment table. Now, in order to avoid any error in this now, well, let's first of all identify inactive customers over 2 years. Let's close parentheses. Now, let's do that first. Now, select customer Customer, what are we picking from customer? Customer underscore ID, now I'll use the max function, max, open parentheses. I'll be using the renter underscore date, close parentheses, as what? As I'll give it an alias of what? Last underscore renter. Let's say last underscore renter. Now, from where? From customers table. Now, I'll give it an alias of C. I'll left join now. Left join renter. That's our own customer. That's customer underscore ID. Customer underscore ID equals, now from the renters table, what they have in common is customer underscore ID too. Underscore ID. Now let me group by. Now I'll be picking the customers table. And what am I picking from there that I wanted to use to group by? Customer underscore ID. Now I'll be using the having. Now what I want to use having along with last underscore renter is not null, or last underscore renter now less than date underscore sub, open parentheses, call date, open and close, comma, interval of what? The interval is 2 years. Close parentheses. Now give it a semicolon. Now let's run this now. Control enter. Error. Unknown column last underscore rare. Oh, I made a mistake there. Okay. Now let's run this now. Control enter. You can see now. It's actually working perfectly now. Now this has returned all customers with no renters at all, or no renter in the last 2 years. You can see. Now the next thing we'll be doing is we will delete their dependent records now first. Delete their dependent records first. Now let's do that now. We'll delete from payment and renter, then from customer. Delete from payment. Now let's delete from payment table. Payment. Now where customer underscore ID in open parentheses select customer underscore ID from open parentheses. Now I will select again. Select, what am I selecting this time around? The customer. Now what am I picking from customer? Customer underscore ID. Customer underscore ID from customers table. I'll give it an alias of C. Customers table. Now I will left join now. Left join help join renter. I'll give it an alias of R on customer underscore ID. Now what they have in common? Sorry, equals now renter. I'll pick customer underscore ID from there too. You can actually check the tables. That's what they have in common. Now group by I don't want to be wasting our time, so that's why I didn't open the tables again. Group by customer underscore ID underscore ID. Group by customer underscore ID. Now having I'll use the max function this time around. Max open parentheses. Now I'll bring out the renter. Now what am I picking from the renter now? Renter underscore date. Now it has bring it out for us. Close parentheses. Is means is empty, is null, or max open parentheses renter underscore date. Let's bring it out. Close parentheses. Now less than date underscore sub open parentheses along with the current date, call date, open parentheses, close parentheses, comma. Now interval. Oh, sorry. Interval or what? 2. That's 2 years. Now close parentheses. Now close this parentheses you've opened now. Now as what? As inactive underscore customers. That means those customers that they are not actually active. Now close all the parentheses, semicolon. Now let's run this now. Control enter. No error. Now we've actually deleted from payments. Now let's delete from rent. We will now merge everything together. Delete from renter. Now where customer underscore ID in open parentheses. Now select customer underscore ID. So that's customer underscore ID from open parenthesis select customer. That means from customer table, I'm picking the customer underscore ID now. Reason why I'm deleting them one after the other is those tables actually depend on each other. So why if we don't delete them separately like this, it will give us error. Now select customer underscore ID from customers table from where? Customers table C. Now from customers table. Now let's left join now. Left join. Now renter are on what? On customer underscore ID. This is this. Equals renter. We bring out customer underscore ID. That's what they have in common. Now group by now customer underscore ID. This is it. Having max open parenthesis. Now renter underscore date. It's more or less it's more likely what we did here is none or max, because it will actually depend on each other. Max renter dot renter underscore date. You can see it's bringing it out for close parenthesis less than date underscore sub open parenthesis for date open parenthesis close parenthesis comma interval now 2 years close parenthesis as what? As inactive underscore customers. Now let's close the table now. Let's close the parenthesis now. Control enter. No error. Now for the customers table now, I'll just bring my cursor here. Control C copy. Now hit on enter. Control V. I'll just change this from renters to what? To customers table. Now, and I'll just run this. So control enter. Delete from where customer in. Now if you look at that error, the error is telling us that what there is a related record in what in customer underscore feedbacks, which is this table. Is an artificial table that I created now in one of the lessons. Now let's quickly do that for the customer underscore feedback too. Let's bring this. Now Control V. Let's change this to customer underscore feedback. Now let's run this now. Control enter. No error. Now let's run this customer table now. Control enter. No error. So everything is perfect now. Now to actually confirm that what we did was actually correct now, let's quickly run this back again. Let's say select. Now from customers table now we'll pick the customer underscore ID. Customer underscore ID. Now from where? From customers table. Now left join renter. Now give it an alias of R on what? On customer underscore ID. Now equals renter dot customer. Now it has bring it out for us. Now group by customer underscore ID. Now having marks, open parentheses, that's renter underscore date. This is it. Now close parentheses is null or marks, excuse me, open parentheses, renter, let me leave it small letter, renter underscore date, close parentheses, less than date underscore sub underscore core date, open parentheses, close parentheses, comma, interval 2 years. Now semicolon. Let's run this. Now if you run this now, if it returns 0, you can see now the customer ID doesn't have anything. Previous ones that we actually runs that are inactive now, you can see now we don't have any inactive any longer now. Now I want to confirm from each tables now. You can just say select all from customer. Now where customer underscore ID equals 1, 2, 3. Now run this now. Control enter. You can see you don't have anything relating to this. You can see it's null, it's empty. So what we did is actually correct. That's how to delete it what in MySQL. Now let's quickly solve this second question. Now let's, in this case, we'll be using the what database now. Let me just collapse this now. Collapse the table. So to clean up the databases by deleting all cities in Nigeria with a population under 10,000. Let's use the city table now. Let's be fast. Delete from city, okay, from city where country 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 code, this is the column I want to use now, equals in code, just print NGA, that's the code Nigeria. Now, and population just bring it out for us, less than, and population less than 10,000. This is 1,000, 10,000. Now semicolon, control enter. You can see it now. It's actually perfect, so no error. Now this is city table now. If you run it now, you won't, if I search for Nigeria now, you can see now we don't have anything relating to what, to Nigeria here any longer. If I click apply, we don't have anything related to Nigeria now. You can just delete this and let's continue. Now purge old payment records other than 5. We'll be using the payment table other than 5 years with amount less than $1 to free up space. We'll be using the Circular's database because it's in Circular as what, payment. So we are using the payment table here. So let's quickly do this. Delete excuse me, from payment table. Now where amount less than 1 and payment underscore date less than, I'll be using the date sub, less than date underscore sub, open parenthesis. Now call date, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, comma, interval. Because of that interval other than 5 years, so that's why I'm using the call date, the sub date. So I'm using it along with the call date and the interval of what, 5 years, close parenthesis, semicolon, run this, control enter. Error, you are using a safe mode. Now let's remove it from safe mode. Let's quickly come up here, collapse this, let's come up, set, I actually did it earlier here. Okay, let's just use it here. Let's just run this, control enter. Now after, we can just return it back to the safe mode. Now let's run this now, control enter, no error. So we've actually deleted it now, so we can return it back to the safe mode now, control enter. So now let's solve the last question. Now this last question, delete all rental and payment record for customers who have been inactive for more than 3 years. Now in this case, it's similar to what we actually did here. Now you first of all create this. Now you create that, you delete from payments table and from rent table at the same time from what? Customers table. So when you see the inactive first, you create the inactive. When you see the inactive, you now delete from each table. So you now check back the way we actually answer the fourth question. So you can just do that as a practice. So that will be all for this lesson. See you in the next lesson. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, click on the notification bell. When I drop a new video, you get notified. See you in the next lesson. Bye for now.